Val Show, where conversation is art, 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 art. Conversation is art, conversation is art. You should chime in, ain't no telling where to start on the Val Show. Ain't no telling the Val and Val Show. You know, ain't no telling where we go on the Val and Val Show. Ain't no ceiling, cause the art of conversation is the flow. It's that creativity available when we speak, available in our homes, available in the streets. We just trying to get it sparking and take it a little deeper. Keep it casual while fireside chatting with our people. Yeah, we take it a little deeper. It get hot when we fireside chatting with our people. Cause conversation is art, conversation is art. You should chime in, ain't no telling what'll spark on the Val and Val Show. The Val and Val Show.
Further ado, I am going to bring, and I want to make sure I say your name correct. Is Jacques or is it Jack?
Jacques.
Jacques. Okay. I wanted to make sure. And I went on Google, and that's what it's told me.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
I mean, actually, YouTube. So I wanted to make sure. So welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Doing well. I thank you for accepting my invitation. People often ask me how to get people on. I say I find interesting things, and I just reach out to them and say, "Hey, you want to be on?"
Yeah.
And for Jacques, for me, this is my mental health therapy part of it.
Mm-hmm.
This show I have, finding people like you to come on and educate, as well as just share. We have some laughter, we have some tears,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Okay.
So how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Doing well. I had a busy day.
Yes, it's been a busy work day.
I'm sure you're ready to exhale. Well, you can exhale about 8:05.
8:00. Okay.
That's what time I'm gonna let you exhale.
All right.
Okay. Hold on a minute. There's saying there's no audio.
Oh, they're
Let
saying
me
they
go
can't
ahead and
hear.
look. Let me go ahead and look. And see what's going on.
And you know, that was the
Okay.
problem that we were having. Um,
And I can hear you good. So I thought there'd be Eleanor, can you hear me? Or can y'all not hear him? Let me type a message. Okay, she's saying she can hear now. Can you hear Jacques talking?
is she able to hear me?
That's what I'm asking. Can you hear both of us? Oh, she say she can hear both of us. Okay, Jackie, can you hear? Is that your wife?
That is.
Okay.
Jackie, are you able to hear?
Eleanor says she can hear.
Are you able to hear both of us?
That's what I want to make sure. Okay, Eleanor saying she can hear both of us, but your wife never responded to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hear us. I went on Facebook to make sure.
Okay. You're able to hear
So
now?
I can hear. Okay, look.
All right.
You say you say never remember. You don't want to have this conversation. We don't have this conversation.
All right, let's proceed.
That's for sure. So let's start out. Tell the people a little bit about yourself. How you got into the world of therapy.
Wow. I was asked that question not too long ago. Someone asked, how did you end up becoming a counselor? Because it wasn't my plan. I left high school going to a technical college, DeVry in Atlanta, and finished school there and worked in electronics for a couple of years, but didn't necessarily feel fulfilled. I wanted to go back to college, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And ran across a psychology textbook. I opened it, read it, and it was really interesting. And I said, well, I want to go into psychology. I had the opportunity to go back to college, actually left Georgia, moved back home, and started school at UAB. I think I was a 23-year-old freshman, and but also didn't have any way to pay for it. I joined the Army Reserve, and during this time, while in the reserve and as a student at UAB, I landed on psychology. Enjoyed, talking with people, having conversation, being able to converse with people. And I thought I might go into industrial organizational psychology, but I didn't really feel that fit me. Um, Decided I wanted to, after graduating, I wanted to go back to college and get a master's. And I did a job search, a career inventory. And one of the choices there was therapist. And so I pursued my master's in that. During the whole time, though, while in undergrad and grad, I still worked in electronics and was still a soldier in the Army Reserve, helping to pay for it all. And actually, when I started my career in counseling, I had to take a pay cut for a while to kind of, I guess, get my feet wet and jump in there. And I started, I think, like a lot of counselors may start in substance abuse. And so that's how I got into counseling.
Wow. Psychology always fascinated me. I was in nursing school because, we have a part of that in our curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it's a part of me still consider going to get certified.
Okay.
And it's only because it's like I can be out in the street. I'm like, why these people come want to pour all their stuff on me? I don't even know you.
So one of the questions I asked myself when I was trying to decide on a career, what is it that I could do and it doesn't seem like work?
Yeah.
What is it that I could do it was just part of my character, a part of who I am. And it does not feel like I go to work every day when that term that we have, you go clock in. I've done that, been there, and
Yeah,
ain't trying to go back to that.
I feel you
Where
on
it was
that.
just this arduous task and didn't want to be there. But I enjoy what I do. Now there are times, there have been days where it's like, oh, I don't feel like doing this group, and then I get in there, and it's just something awakens in me, and I really enjoy doing groups because it takes on kind of its own course depending on who's in there. But for some reason, it just uh, energizes me in the process of seeing the individuals help each other, work with one another, and grow together.
Yeah, that's good. I'm all about community. We were not put in this world to be alone.
Yeah. I often
And I tell people,
go
yeah,
ahead.
you're
Go
supposed to
ahead.
have periods of being alone, but when it becomes your normal, that's not healthy.
Yeah. I often say, people may want to be alone, but no one wants to be lonely.
That's most definitely.
And
That's most definitely.
we're social creatures. We need one another, from the person behind the counter at the gas station to the family member we're able to call on, to the friends that we develop throughout our life. But there is an aspect of ourselves, a social aspect to ourselves, that we need one another.
Most definitely. Well, look, let's talk about brother. Let's talk. And I had the opportunity. I don't know if I met you or somebody representing you all at the big health fair that Dr. French had at Railroad Park.
Okay.
And he's my church member.
Okay. Yeah.
So I came down and I was just, Lord, you all, we have a lot of black therapists in the Birmingham area.
Yeah.
I was simply like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And a lot of them young, very young.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great to see that, because we know that's one thing that we did not have access. I know when I started years ago, I don't think I had an option to have a black therapist. So it's really great now. Even when you call most of your employee assistance programs, they ask you, what's your preference? What do you even if you're a person of faith, a Christian, you want somebody that's a Christian. So I really, really like that. So with Black Brothers, let's talk. How did this land in your lap?
Oh, how did it land in my lap? um, you may not recall, but on Easter Sunday, 2017, a man by the name of Stevie Stevens recorded himself on Facebook Live killing Robert Godwin.
Yeah.
Robert Godwin was an elderly gentleman who had just finished having Easter dinner with his family and was walking home. And Stevie Stevens, before killing Mr. Godwin, went into this tirade. His friends were trying to talk him down. And I recall him saying, every time I try to say something, y'all blow me off. I'm tired of being the butt of other people's jokes and nobody taking me serious. And in that, I heard the plight of a lot of black men. I'm looking at a young black man who's angry, not really understanding how to appropriately express that emotion, whatever it is that he's feeling. And part of that was some rejection, I believe, because he asked Mr. Godwin if he knew, and he mentioned the name of an ex-girlfriend. And so, of course, Mr. Godwin is, I don't know that person. I don't know anything about that. But there was a lot of negative emotion that Mr. Stevie Stevens was feeling, and decided to commit this heinous act. When I saw that, it was around that same time that organization here in Birmingham, Black Women's Mental Health Initiative, was having a mental health summit for minority women. And I called the director and I asked her, can I just come sit in? I like to see what you're doing and how's it going? I know I'm a male and it's just women. And I was, beside some of the vendors, the only male sitting in there. But I was like, we need something like this for men where they can come in and, hear mental health professionals, men of color who work in the mental health field,
Mhm.
talk about and educate them on mental health, because for so many in our community, men and women, they've looked at mental health from um, I guess from through the lens of stigma. If I go in, they're going to call me crazy, or they're gonna give me medicine, or you know and so there was a lot of stigma that existed. So just so happened at that time, I was going through a class with Charlotte Jenkins, who's a LICSW, licensed independent clinical social worker. She knew another professional, Yavis Witherspoon, who is our assistant director, who knew another psychiatrist, um, and another psychologist, and another domestic violence professional, Ralph Sims. And we all came together. It was um, like a combination of the right timing. The psychiatrist, Dr. Artie Nelson, and psychologist, Dr. Jeff Moore, um, both recognize, yeah, there are a lot of men that I see who don't want to be seen. Oftentimes, I know in my case, when men of color came before me, a lot of times it was because they were adjudicated through a
Yeah.
domestic violence program, a substance abuse program. Um, so we thought at that time, how do we bring men together, men of color, to talk about mental health?
Mhm.
That ain't gonna happen. You saying you having a mental health discussion, and no, we don't want to do it. So we're gonna have one event. Um, we're gonna host it at a place downtown. You're probably familiar with the Wine Loft.
Mhm.
Um, and so on the panel, we would have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, social worker, a therapist, and a pastor. And understanding the importance of faith and religion to the Black community, we thought it'd be important to have a pastor on the panel who supports mental health. And so we had, Val, over 100 men to show up that day.
I'm backing up, so
Yes. And we can talk about that in a minute, because sometimes people feel you got to do either one or the other, and that's not the case. But we had over 100 men to show up, and it was really just educating them about psychiatry. What's the difference between it and psychology, and when might you need to see a therapist? And then the pastor speaking on it from his perspective. And so from that one event, men started calling saying, "Hey, when are y'all doing this again?"
wow.
And so eventually what we landed upon was the barbershop talks, because we were like, where can we do this, regularly, where men will be willing to come and engage in conversation, but facilitating the conversation are licensed mental health professional men of color. And I understand that's a term you have issues with, but we'll get to it. But men of color, really, because we know therapy is about a relationship. It's about developing a relationship with that client where they feel comfortable about opening up. And
Yeah.
if there's no connection, I'm not going to open up to you. I'm not talking to you because you don't understand the world I come from, or you're not going to understand me. A lot of times that may be the case. Not to say
True.
that only people of color can be counseled by people of color, or vice, or anything like that. It's a connection one individual have with the other. Our goal was to create a bridge for men to first identify the stigma that they have, and let's talk about that. but we wanted to bridge that gap of trust so they themselves can help their brother. They themselves can seek therapy if they need it. Or, we
Yeah.
can maybe able to refer them to someone, but we really wanted to bridge that gap of stigma that exists between men of color and seeking mental health.
Everything. Okay. So we're gonna talk about men of color. It's just for me, even with people of color, men of color, this is my personal belief that that's part of a way to bury us or diminish black people
Okay.
again. And that if you say people of color or black people, then if we say, well, this disproportionate affects black
Men.
it's like, no, we don't have that problem. So that's why I prefer even the BIPOC. Black people, indigenous people, and other people of color is how I refer to it. Because there is a difference in how society treats people of color.
Okay.
The conglomerate of it. So that's just my thing, because I don't want us to get pushed down
Okay.
to the bottom of that
Right.
definition.
You rather just directly say black man, black woman when you're speaking specifically about that population.
Yes.
Okay.
And Asian or whatever it is.
Okay.
Because, once again, club them all together. And one size don't fit all.
True.
It does not fit all. I think for me, as I shared with you before we came on, I just had a conversation with my first black therapist yesterday.
Okay.
I didn't have an option years ago
Okay.
to have a black therapist. I've had white males and white females. And I think for me, the only reason I was able to navigate that space with them was because being a nurse, and I had some psychology. But I remember distinctly one time when I was in a session and I was listening to this white therapist, and I was thinking in my mind, you really need to be talking to me.
Y'all needed to switch seats, huh?
I might need to counsel you. But as I shared with you, is that it just seems like people track me down. It's like, Lord, I ain't looking for nobody to mentor or bring under my wings, but I'm a person of faith, and my Christianity faith is major for me. But I do believe there are some things, and I call it a gift that runs in bloodline. My grandfather was that type person. My mom's dad, and my mom's was that person. People could talk to my mama 10 minutes, and they would have just unloaded their whole life. And my daughter even told me, she said, Mama, you know you're becoming granny. And it's something I've actually pushed her back on, but I had to realize, I said, well, Lord, if this is what you put me here, one of the things you put me here, I'm going to embrace that, because there are so many hurt people. And whether I go on to become a licensed therapist or counselor or not, I have been able to tell people, look, use EAP. They're not going to violate your confidentiality. So just guiding people to know it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not that I hate to use this, but I'm going to use it for the purpose of it. No, we say, oh, they crazy. Y'all, all of us have some form of mental instability just by being in this world. If you don't think so, then you definitely need to see a therapist.
And I think that became very prevalent on this side of COVID. Prior to, we were just kind of in this routine of distracting ourselves or finding something else to do to address some of those emotional concerns. But then we had this period where we had to kind of sit in that emotional space and deal with the person I've been leaving the house to go to work, because I ain't trying to sit in here and deal with them all day. But now I got to deal with them. And so I saw a huge, on my caseload, a huge uptick of anxiety and depression, during and
Yeah.
afterwards. And so, but there there was a period where, of course, we didn't talk about mental health in our homes. We didn't talk
True.
about a lot of the issues and the option to go talk with a counselor, go talk with or speak with a therapist. There, one of the things that we do address in our barbershop talks, like you said, that people will have a resource and not necessarily know about it, like their EAP, which may cover 3 to 10 sessions depending on the company. That's free. Counseling
Yeah.
isn't cheap, but if you have a resource that pays for it, that's great. Use it. But yeah, we all deal with some emotional, because we all deal with some emotional concern, but it's the ability to cope with those things that we deal with each day. Um,
Yeah.
but I found a lot of times, though, a person may not have been taught those coping skills.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think in our race, black, female, and male, probably one of the advantages for women is that we do talk to our girlfriends. Whereas, even if men have a DFL, they really don't talk about their emotions or anything. And trust me, I got some men in my life. I'm like, oh yeah, you need to talk to somebody. You really do.
So, and I'll speak to that a lot of times, especially with couples, because the wife would be like, he won't say nothing, he won't talk, he won't tell me how he feel, or he'll just get angry and stop talking to me, and become so extremely frustrated with that. Is why won't he express or say what he feels? But a lot of times they may not know how.
Yeah.
And I give this analogy, which I call the hurt or injured theory. And with like a lot of young boys, they may have played some organized sport, and the coach asks them, "Are you hurt or are you injured?" Because if you injured, you can sit down. You don't need to get in the game. But if you hurt, you need to suck it up and play through it. And a lot of
Yeah.
times, the young boys are kind of relate that to hurt emotions. And so when a young boy, when his emotions are hurt, they'll kind of tease him. Oh, you acting girly, or you your feelings hurt. So you have to push that down and not address it. But in that same period, you have that young athlete who they use anger to get out all of that emotion.
Yeah.
It's okay to go out on the court or out on the field and just use all of that to help you to perform. So they kind of relate that to say, okay, it's okay to express anger. So a lot of times what happens is that emotion of grief that they feel, it comes out as anger. That embarrassment may come out as anger. That guilt may come out as anger, because they hadn't really been taught or had that opportunity to sit down and really identify what it is that they feel and be able to express it appropriately, be able to speak to it. And like you said, young ladies, spend a lot of time talking with each other, talking about what they feel. Girl, this, and I'm feeling that, and what's going. And so you're getting it out. You have, through that conversation, you're able to hear yourself speak about it, identify what it is that you feel, and speak appropriately to it. A lot of times, guys we don't give ourselves that opportunity, or may not necessarily have been taught how to do that appropriately.
Well, I have very two extremes in my children. My son, I raised him to be very in touch with his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I say, Cameron, if you don't learn to express your emotions, they're going to come out in a volatile way.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come up in a volatile way. My daughter, on the other hand, she's like, Mama, I'm sick of making these excuses for these men. They want women to suck it up and deal with them and their volatile behavior, and they don't ever change. They're not being held accountable. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah.
And she says that's why most of them are opting to be single. She's 32.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to that when you have that thought? I know, and trust me, I know the trauma is there. And also, I feel like in some ways we coddle boys and men, especially mamas. I'm gonna say mamas sometimes. So
You had said something about, expressing to your son or telling your son that he needs to be able to express his emotion. Well, there's a step before that, and that is identifying that emotion, being able to know the
yeah.
difference between annoyance and frustration, being able to know the difference between joy or elation, being able to identify exactly what it is that you're feeling, and then speak on that. Um, that's really important. So finding that space to where they can, I, I keep like a list of emotions. I got it over here, and I'll sometimes give that to a client to have them try to, because you just ask them before I give them the list 5 emotions for me, and anger, sadness, happy, well, then I give them that list that has like over 30 different emotions on there, and
Yeah.
they're like, whoa. So
Sorrow, frustration, it's a lot of them.
being able to identify what you're feeling in that moment um, helps a person be able to control it, that self-control piece, control your behavior despite how you feel. If you can identify what it is that you're feeling, but then also not blame someone else for what you feel.
True.
Everyone wants well, I don't want to say everyone, but people sometimes tend to believe that you make me angry. You did something. So when you stop doing what you're doing, I'm going to be angry. And if you don't stop or you don't change, my emotion is not going to change. So who's in
And
control
it
then?
escalates. We go from 5 to 6 to 7, 8. Then we just
Yeah,
keep
because
going
we're
up.
we're blaming someone else rather than recognizing I feel the way I do because I think the way I do. It's my thoughts that drive my emotions. There are times where, have you ever had a time where you're sitting down, you're busy, you're working on something, and the thought drifts off to something else, and
Yeah.
you say to yourself, whoa, wait a minute, I can't think about that right now. I got to focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That thought lingers on and it drives a particular emotion. And being able to recognize my thoughts are what leads to how I feel. And
Gotcha.
so I'm not blaming someone else for how I feel. When I'm feeling a certain emotion, I'm first checking self. I'm first looking at, okay, what is it that I can do? How can I, what is a different perspective that I can have on the situation so I'm not feeling this way?
I got you. I know for me, something that's worked for me, I started taking the perspective of whatever was going on was like, okay, where is this coming from? Not so much saying, I would be saying like, oh, Jacques, you're doing this to me. I'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because I think sometimes we don't stop to pause to think about what's coming out. May not have anything to do with it. It could have been you had a bad day at work, or you got some bad news. And I think sometimes we don't think about we need rest. We need rest from all these electronic devices. We need rest from listening to the news. I don't watch the news at night because I don't want to go to sleep with that on my mind. Just recently we had that horrific shooting in 5 Points South. And I know people were like, oh, the thugs or whatever. But I'm like, y'all, that is not what they wanted to do when they were 7 and 8. If you had asked them what you want to be when you grow up, how did you get there? And it's multifaceted. I mean, we have the literacy rate. It's been predicted that if you can't read efficiently by 3rd or 4th grade, you're more likely to end up in the system, which is laden with mental illness and emotional distresses. And then, as you said, COVID. And it's funny, I think I coped so well was that me and my girlfriends and my interactions and stuff was still going on.
Okay.
Early on, I had family. They came over. We were sitting out in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think also that had a lot to do with me being a nurse in healthcare. And I
Okay.
worked in ER for 14 years.
Okay.
So I got to see the effects of social isolation
Yeah.
and the volatility of anger and all of that stuff. So I had some advantages
Mm-hmm.
that, some tools that some people did not. So
Yeah.
with Brothers Let's Talk, do y'all meet regularly, monthly, or as needed, or what?
Well, we have our barbershop talks typically at the end of the month, each month.
Okay.
Now, aside from October, November, December, we have more community related events. You spoke about the shooting that occurred in 5 Points South. As a result of that, and other issues that people may have dealt with, and we're coming in that time of year where um, grief is really prevalent when we come upon the holiday seasons. And so, what Brother Let's Talk will be doing, I think our first one is going to be October 29th at the Birmingham Public Library. Well, we'll be holding sessions just to talk about grief, just to talk about, and it's called Healing the Community. And we wanted to bring professionals before the community to give them tips, ideas, suggestions, coping skills on how to deal with the loss of their loved one or their sense of grief from whatever type of loss that has occurred. But
so will this be at the downtown library?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Which one? Okay.
October 29th, the downtown library.
At what time?
5 to 7, I believe. 5 to 7 p.m.
Okay. So I'm typing this in the chat so we'll have it.
Okay.
And I think that's great. So are females welcome or just brothers?
Now, our community events, events are male and female. The barbershop talks are just men.
Yes, okay, yeah, they need to be. They need to be.
Well,
They
something
want to say.
Something great happens. It's good and pleasant when men dwell together. And yeah, something magical happens, I believe, when men come together under a common purpose, and acknowledge that we're here to help one another. Our barbershop talks, of course, we have usually some good food to eat on. It's always great with conversation. Sometimes you have the game going on in the background, or you might have a barber sitting in the chair. We typically do it on a Sunday, and just an opportunity for men to come together. We've developed a close following. There are several men who hadn't missed a barbershop talk, but we extended to some of the local HBCUs. We've been to Talladega before, been to Miles over the years. Just recently, I think did 2 sessions last month on their campus. So we're just trying to keep the conversation going. An opportunity for men to know it's okay. But what I'm seeing though, with I guess in the media, you see, major athletes or music artists talking about the importance of mental health, talking about the importance of going to therapy. And so I've seen an increase in Black men coming into counseling. Not all of them are drugged in by their wives or, had been adjudicated. But there's, I think that stigma is breaking down, especially among the younger generation, 20 to maybe 40 or so. But there's still some that, 45 and up and still have kind of that old school mentality, and ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm all right. I just go drink this Coke 45 and I'll be straight. But not understanding, right? They're creating another problem. But just again, trying to create that space that men can break down that stigma, break down that perspective of um, that they have to kind of suck it up, deal with it, and move on. You know, one of the questions that came up in one of the barbershop talks: when was the first time you heard another man say to you, "I love you"?
Yeah.
And for some of them, it's like, my dad never said I love you. My dad never said I love you to me. And so we'll get an opportunity to process that. And I was thinking about the first time I heard another man say it, and it was actually one of my best friends. And we sitting down at an AAU basketball game, and there's a lot of people around, right? And I'm getting ready to leave with my family, and he's like, Jacques. I'm like, what? He said, I love you, man. What? I mean, a guy I've been knowing over 20 some years. I mean, we've hit the road, traveled to California and back together, and consider his family my second family. But to hear that from another man, I had to catch myself in a space that, whoa, wait a minute. And it was from that point that I became intentional in telling other men that I love you.
Yeah. You know what? I grew up in one of those families. My dad, my mom, huggers. I always will warn people, like when they come out, let me tell you now, you step in the door, you don't get about 2-3 bear hugs. Just go with it. Just go with it. Just go with it.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? I had an incident happen, dear friend, and she said that my father was the first person that ever just validated her as being worthy, and that did not make a pass at her.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And he became, she said he became like a second daddy, but I was like, wow,
mm-hmm.
there's some older men that can really
mm-hmm.
build you up and love you,
mm-hmm.
and not trying to think. And then my daughter always say, she said, Mom, see, we can't look at the world through our lens. If I thought we didn't have a perfect life, but we had a loving family, validating. There was nothing I thought I could do. I never thought I was not worthy. And our family, Elna said, she said, why don't men hug and kiss their young children? They do that to daughters, I think, but probably not their sons.
Mm-hmm. Cause it's like, you got to be tough, and we hug and kiss, and that's you being soft, because they may have related the hug and the kiss as something as sensual that you may do with the woman, as opposed to, and it's cultural, because you have some cultures where men will hug, embrace, and know it's not some sexual undertones or anything. It's like that. It's showing love for one another and being able to do that. But I think, again, that's kind of just how, I think about that cowboy mentality, you know what I'm saying? From old Western days, like, I got to be strong, I got to be tough, suck it up, men don't cry. God gave us all tears for the purpose of releasing that stress, releasing that emotion, releasing that pain. And I think the weakness is not crying.
But you know what? Now, I would tell people this. You keep all that stuff bottled up, it's going to come out in a stroke, a heart attack, or possibly a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I remember at my mother-in-law's celebration of life service, the pastor said these words, and I can't tell none of the man preached because it was a tough time, but when he said these words, it was like, whoa. Mm-hmm. He said, tears are the safety valves of the soul. Mm. He said, it's like when you have a cramped water hose, and the flow is just trickling. But once you unleash it, it's a release. And I can tell people, having a good cry, oh, it's just so like
it's a release
that you can take.
Yeah, it's part of that emotional release.
Now.
Yeah.
Have a good cry. Well, I'm so happy to hear this, and I'll put the website, all of your social media contact in the chat. And let's talk briefly about young men and boys, because I did some research because I got asked to speak with the Man Project. I don't know if you heard of Richard Cade and that.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me to talk about emotional wellness. And when I went and looked at that statistical information on the increase in the incident of suicide or attempts of taking their life by suicide, I was like, at 8, I don't even think I knew really what suicide was.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't know nobody had done it. So, do you all do anything with young boys that age or not?
Our work, we are now in the Birmingham City Schools.
Wow, great.
Where we're just one of the providers for their students. Well, that's middle and high school. Now, sometimes we may get a call for someone that age. And so what we'll do is connect them with a provider that sees children that age, which there aren't a lot. But, you know, what you were talking about with suicide, I saw on the NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, on their website that suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. 10.
Yes.
10 years old. Hadn't started living life.
I have a fraternity brother that's a psychiatrist. You may know him, Demel Coleman.
I've heard that name, yeah.
Yeah, he worked at the VA for several years. He's no longer in this area. But he came on and was doing a series on mental health. And I was like, wow. So in that age, do you think it's due to bullying? Or it's like suicide now like seeing a way out or some kind of badge of courage? Because these kids, you know, things take on different meaning. Yeah,
there are a number of variables, and can't pinpoint exactly for one person that may cause them to go to that extreme. But being able to develop closer bonds or closer relationships. I remember seeing information that said people who have a stronger religious background are less likely to commit suicide than people who don't. And so there are a number of factors that I guess may play in a person's ability to cope with some of life's situations. Like you said, you talked about earlier, like a person feeling isolated or gaining that sense of hopelessness or feeling that they don't have anyone that they can reach out to, and not knowing, you know, what are the resources that are out there. That's why it's important that we continue conversations like this, and it's great work that you're doing. And I truly appreciate this opportunity to come on and speak on this platform. And we need more of what you're doing, what other people are doing to promote mental health in an effort to help people understand and be able to recognize, not only just with themselves, but with their family members and with their friends. You know, it was a time that, you know, the things would go on and we'll just say, well, you know, he like that. He just do that. Or, well, you know how your uncle is, you know how your sister be doing. And it's like, whoa. There's some mental health issues that need to be addressed. And you know what?
Yeah.
I know a counselor. Hey, give them a call, you know, but we're having more of those conversations now, and hopefully we'll be able to get more people into treatment and see this field continue to grow. Because, you know, like you were saying earlier, it was kind of hard finding a Black therapist, you know, and because I recall going through grad school and even after getting licensed and going to workshops, be just one of me in a room of 30, 40 people, you know. But there's a younger generation where people are seeking out this profession. And I'm glad to see that.
But it's a part of their health and wellness. A lot of the young people,
Mm-hmm.
and going back to what I said about my daughter, and I think that's the issue. You probably have more young females with that connection of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
where it's probably the young men they're trying to date
Mm-hmm.
not feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that disconnect because my son,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, Mama, I can't be dating no girl. She can't be express emotions because I need to know what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. And you all, I dropped the crisis hotline up here. I think this is wonderful that they did 988.
Mm-hmm.
Real simple. And everything.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to address this because I can't overlook this. You are a veteran.
Yes.
I am too. Our vets, God bless them, especially those that have been through the wars and are just really traumatized and
Mm-hmm.
substance abuse. What seems to be the disconnect to getting them the help they need? Because I talked to several vets and they think like trying to navigate VA is like trying to swim the Atlantic Ocean
Yeah.
to get help.
Yeah. I also see vets as well through the community care network. And
Okay.
that is, if they go through the VA and they're not able to get an appointment in the time that they want, they can seek someone in the community that provides
Yeah.
that service and get connected with them. But I know, like even with my caseload, it fills up. You know, I can only see so many. And so there are so many people that need assistance that sometimes it might be kind of hard to get to them in the time that they want. But as you know, we get more counselors coming into this field. You get more vets that are actually, you know, going out seeking help. Hopefully that help will come in the time that they need. But as far as the VA system, you know, some people say it's great, some people say not so. But my interactions with them have been great. That you know,
Right. And I think you probably need an advocate, especially if you're in some type of crisis, somebody to help you navigate that system.
yeah,
So look, you all, we need more Black therapists. So, you know, y'all always say, I do believe God show you children what they should be when they're little
mm-hmm.
if you pay attention. So you all stop telling your children to go to school so they make a lot of money and they can be miserable, that they're going to need a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
If you see them that type, that they always attentive to someone that's in crisis or something,
Mm-hmm.
they probably would benefit and be great in this field.
Mm-hmm.
So look at what is naturally in them. I'm convinced that's what we all should be doing. Probably that's how God guided you
Mm-hmm.
to where you should be.
It was not my plan. It was God's plan, because I found out if Jacques try to walk the street on his own power, he gonna get hit.
Every time.
And so I asked God to guide me, lead me in the direction that you'll have me to go. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean unto Him.
That's right. You know what
So-
you made me think about when you said that? I thought about Jonah.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go to Nineveh.
Mm-hmm.
So you all, when you run from this calling of your life,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to end in some form of a belly of a whale, okay?
Hmm.
It might be some chaos until you actually embrace it. And we don't think about that.
Mm-hmm. So you showed me your shirt,
Mm-hmm.
which says what again?
Hold on, let you read it. Let me take.
Uh-huh. God and therapy. Talk about that for a second.
Okay. This is actually a church member,
Mm-hmm.
and one former church member, Felicia Pruitt, and I'm going to throw their stuff up here. They own Willow Grace Wellness Center.
Okay.
And you see, to educate, eradicate, and eliminate mental health
Okay.
stigma is there. And she also has a partner, Tangi Maker.
Mm-hmm.
So she just started out with her basically first t-shirt had that on it, educate, eradicate. And then she came up with God and therapy for the same reason you said. Because some people believe if you go see a therapist, you don't trust God.
Mm-hmm.
You weak. in your faith. But I always tell people, y'all, Jesus had his inner circle of support. He wasn't just running around here Jesus every day. He had, I always think about Martha, Mary, and Lazarus when he went over their house. That was his chill time to disconnect. Peter, James, and John, his inner circle. So I think we have evidence of therapy. Throughout the Bible, some people are just so super religious or whatever. So it's no different than if you go take a high blood pressure medicine. Well, if you're going to attribute that to not going to therapy and have a lack of faith, well, you have lack of faith for God getting your blood pressure under control. So, yeah, that's what this is. So this is their shirt.
I love it. It's wonderful.
I promote it every time
it's
I
wonderful.
can.
Yeah, that's great. To be able to understand that, I often say that we individuals are conduits to Christ. He put us here for one another, and in order to achieve his will. There are certain things that a person may be, praying for and asking for, expecting it to fall out the sky, but they're not talking to the person sitting next to them about what's going on, because that person may be that God put them there to help you to deal with whatever it is, or achieve whatever it is that you're working towards. But you have, and I think about some of the older generation having that philosophy of, it has to be, just this one path. I remember going to one of the local pastors at that time. I was doing grief support groups for an agency in Homewood, Community Grief Support. Phenomenal agency. They provide free counseling and free group counseling. But they were looking to find out, how can we put this service in the Black community? And I went to a local pastor, and I was saying that we like to try to start a grief support group here at your church. And he said, why do I need y'all to come talk to somebody when my deacons can do it? And sometimes I think in some settings or some churches, some pastors may look at, themselves as sort of an end all, and saying that everyone needs to come to him or the deacons for whatever it is but they're not trained to deal with some of the emotional issues that some of people may be dealing with. And so again, it's that philosophy and also I think in that conversation, I don't think he fully understood what counseling is. It's not just talking to someone, it's sitting down with a professional who can help you to navigate the emotional crisis that you're going through, but also teach techniques and skills and approaches to help you to better deal with that particular issue. Someone who is trained to identify certain behavior patterns, the tone, the speech. There's so much in what's not said that helps identify that, and then kind of help that individual to a path of healing. But his lack, I think, of understanding what counseling is, and then the idea that, we can just have some deacons talk to some folks. Well, some of those deacons probably need a counselor too, dealing with some. Yeah.
They need a counselor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thank God that at my church, my pastor, he promotes therapy.
Okay.
He really does. And we try to get people the resources, because he'll quickly tell you, that's above my ability. You need to see someone else. And that's what you need to know. I was laughing and joking to you about what I feel like running out of DNA on my family line. I was at a birthday dinner on this past Friday. Mine and my own business just separate. Said to this young lady, said to me, and we were playing games, and all of a sudden we had to do, it was a pull a word out of bag and say how this applied to us. As soon as she read her word, I heard her voice break.
Mm.
I was like, oh Lord, now why I'm sitting by her? Listen, long story short, ended up when she shared.
Mm-hmm.
I immediately stopped. I said, wait a minute, y'all, we need to pray based on what she shared.
Okay.
And afterwards, the person who celebrated, I was going to send her a message and say, I need to connect with her. And I just told her, I said, we really need to stay close.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a Facebook message, and she shared, Miss Val, she said, you just don't know. She said, when you stopped and you prayed, and she said, she said, every word you prayed, for you not even know me, was so on point. Mm-hmm. She said, if you will, let me stay connected to you. Mm. And I laughed. I said, okay, God. You was like, I got you. Mm-hmm. Through the back door. So I try to be real sensitive to what's said and what's not said. Because one thing, and I know we're going to close in a minute, when I want to bring out the pig, the norm that we think about people that are contemplating suicide, they ain't necessarily looking depressed and giving away stuff anymore.
That's true.
These people are going to celebrations, coming off trips, and really appearing like nothing's wrong. Mm-hmm. So get that typical thing that was in the past, and a lot of them not leaving notes. Mm-hmm. They're not telling you the why sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is business. So good. So look, this ain't gonna be the last time. I just will let you know that.
Okay.
And I am definitely gonna reach out to you because I coordinate. We have a program called HEAL, Healthy Eating, Active Living at my church. But I've incorporated the mental health part of it because sometimes it's not what you're eating; it's what's eating you.
Oh, okay.
So I do incorporate mental health into that.
Okay,
and we're going to be planning a big, just health and wellness conference for next year.
Okay.
Which would definitely have mental health in it. And we'd definitely love to have brothers. Let's talk.
Okay.
So, what's your final word you want to leave
well,
for the people?
I just want to tell you thank you so much. I recall meeting you at Dr. French's health fair out there at Railroad, and but it's important that we keep the conversation going. It's important, a lot of times we feel that if we talk about it, it's going to make them sad, or if we mention or if we ask them a question, it's going to bring, no, have the conversation, talk about it, or, talk about what it is that you notice in your family members, or if you got something going on with you, if there's someone in your life that you trust, speak to them. But if there's, you need counseling, or you feel you might want to go into counseling, call the therapist. Definitely, if you are considering hurting yourself or hurting someone else, call 988. There are other options. My grandfather used to tell me, just keep living, because there are going to be things that go on in life that you don't like, you don't understand. Just keep living, because that came along to strengthen you, to encourage you, to build you up and make you better for the next thing that comes on. Because as long as we're living, there's going to be some issues, but it depends on your choice of whether you want to overcome it or let it cause you to become undone. But there are resources, right? There are resources. There are people out here that love that love you and want to help, but have to let them know.
Yeah, and you keep talking. I'm going to throw this up here. I stole this off your page.
Okay.
It is World Mental Health Day, and I did not know that when we booked this day. So look at God. Okay, God.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that when you said you were at the party and the young lady pulled this one word out of all of the words that was in the bag. She pulled the one that would cause her to react that way.
Yes, and guess what it was? of all the words you think, faith.
Wow. Wow.
It was faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to correlate with what we say. Oh, you going through this, you ain't got enough faith.
Mm. Mm.
And shame. And I was able to pour on her. I said, girl, I said, Jesus had a meltdown in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Mm-hmm.
That was some stress going on.
Mm-hmm.
I said, he wasn't going to the cross, skipping through the tulips.
Mm-hmm.
It was stress. And she looked at me, she was like, I never realized that.
Yeah. And look at the support that she had, that you all provided for her there in that moment, in that time.
Yes.
And was, I'm sure greatly needed and truly appreciated. But I appreciate you. I truly thank you for.
And I thank you so much. And you all, next week, we're going to have our third Thursdays with Tiff. And you all know we just kind of talk about what's happening in the world. And there's a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah.
You have a good night.